said to me, break a leg, as we were about to go live. And I said, I've been out in the car all day with Jamie, who most of you know is 19 and learning to drive. So I'm just glad I've got to this point without breaking a leg, to be honest with you. I'm winning. Winning all the way. So welcome, Richard Hayes. How are you?
Hello. I'm well, thank you.
Good.
Great to be here.
Yeah. You did edition 1, didn't you?
Yep.
Yeah. And we talked about your backstory and everything. So today we're gonna switch it up a bit. We're going to talk about some other stuff. But before we do that, everyone knows we have to do all of the health and safety stuff. All that exits over here. So we're going to just quickly show you Richard's page in the magazine, so you know where to go if you want to contact him and you want to buy his work, which I'm sure you will once you've seen all of this, because I definitely do, and I've been trying to buy his work for some time now. Whole other conversation. It's a whole other conversation, isn't it, Richard? So
it'll happen. It'll happen.
We'll get there. So this is Richard's page in the magazine. There is Richard painting. And as you click down across these are all hyperlinks. So this is how you contact Richard if you want to buy his artwork. And I'm sure you will once you've seen all of this. And over here as well, we've got a video, which I'm actually going to show you in a minute because it's fabulous as a little introduction to Richard. But yeah, that's his magazine page. And then I'm going to quickly show you Richard's website as well, so you'll know when you land on there that you're in the right place. And Richard has also spent quite a lot of lockdown redoing this website, so I think it's only fair that we show your website off.
I get a chance to show it off. That's
exactly. So this is your website. Absolutely fantastic. Paintings, works on paper, sculpture. We're going to have a little chat about that, because that's all news to me. Although I do remember it now. Now you've reminded me.
Of course,
I remember it. But it's a beautiful website, Richard. Absolutely stunning.
Thank you, Leslie.
Yeah, really, really well done. So that's how you contact Richard when you decide, oh my goodness, I have to have one of those pieces in my house, which I'm sure you will. So we're just going to start this interview today with, as I said, we're just going to show Richard's introduction video, and then we will come back and have a chat. So Annie's got me all into showing these videos now. Look what you've done, Annie. This is how it all works. So there we go. We've got your video.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to my studio. My name's Richard Hayes, and I am an abstract painter committed to colour. It's my great love, I suppose. I'd like to draw your attention to this painting, which is made of acrylic on canvas, and it's really a winter piece. So it's created by brushing layers of colour. So this was predominantly a pink and blue kind of ground, and then I started to draw over that very thick viscous colours, and then very liquid fluid colours, and then sort of biting back in and removing those higher layers to create this wonderful, almost evocative of the forest, sort of winter scene, light shining out of the darkness. Another part of my practice is working with a very discrete and small scale and creating different colour conversations.
Brilliant. So that gives us a really lovely insight, and that kind of walks us in the studio. I'm going to focus the screen on Richard so you can see all his beautiful artwork all around him. So Richard, tell us how you approach a painting to start off with. We'll come on to sculpture in a minute, but how do you approach it?
Well, what a question. It depends what I've been doing. I think there's when you've got an ongoing practice that you're working, I like to work on a variety of scales. So large sort of meter squared canvas and larger than that, and then 11 centimeter square canvas, a little piece of card or paper or whatever. And I like the sort of ranging from something with a huge scale to something with a much more intimate scale. So if I'm working on a small scale and I find a gesture, a kind of unifying gesture in that painting, then I might try and take an aspect of that onto a large canvas. And also I'll find a way, I like the conversation between surfaces. How I approach the painting depends really whether I'm approaching a stretch canvas or a card or a paper or an alu dye bond surface, because all the surfaces sort of demand a slightly different start and a different approach. So if I just talk about a canvas, for instance, if I want to have a very soft, nebulous sort of ground, then I'll flood the canvas with water and work into an unprimed canvas, and work into that with a variety of color and build up some sort of dry, soft cloudiness. And then once that's dried, I will work into that with other thicker color on top. This is a painting that I made last week, so I can maybe use that as an example. I've just finished my first big Stolen Time series of work. So I got to 100 canvases and cards, and this is number 98. And I've just sort of come to that point. I'm thinking, what can I do next? So I made a series of small canvases last week, about 5 or 6, and that's a piece that I made. So I flooded the canvas with a grey and a Hansa yellow and a little bit of a teal to make a sort of grey-green ground. And then I put a very large zinc white shape on top of that, and I let that dry about half dry, and then I washed it out. So it dries from the edges, so that I washed the middle out, and then I started to lay into that or over that other color.
Do you use what are you, when you say you're washing it with, flooding it with color, are you using oils or are you using acrylics?
These are acrylics, so they're fluid, the golden fluid and golden open and Liquitex heavy body and golden heavy body. So I use the different viscosity of the paint to do different things. And I'm using a lot of different sizes of Perspex, not really Squeegees, but Perspex tools. So for instance, with this, once that the initial layers of that are dry, I can't remember if I did it with this one, but I'll probably put a sealer on there. Not a varnish, but a sort of there's a golden medium that I use that sort of gives a soft, not too glossy a surface when it's dry, but that prevents any other color from sinking into the ground. Mm-hmm. So the canvas can be like kind of like a blotting paper that will soak in color in a very beautiful way, and it creates this very velvety surface. But then when you put in color on top of that, you want it to meet more of a resistance. So by sealing it, you can then add color in a very kind of fugitive and light way. Depending on the viscosity of the paint, the canvas will grip the color in a way. And if you also then work wet in wet, so you can make a blue gesture and then wash out the blue gesture and then put a crimson on top of it, the blue will catch the crimson. Can you see the crimson here?
Just.
Well, can't see. So the blue being wet and viscous has grabbed the color off the Perspex sheet as it's gone over. So I really enjoy that, the grittiness of that and the immediacy of it, because you're not quite sure what you're doing. You're constantly destroying things in the process, things that work and things that don't work. But this little piece here is on a piece of card which has been sealed with a GSE 100 medium, and that I've made with a silicon painting tool. And there's a wonderful company called Catalyst, and they make a series of silicon painting tools that are a bit like chefs sort of tools. And you can sort of see that. Probably a few of you know them already, I'm sure. They're also a little bit like sculptor's kidneys, for sort of fine modeling and clay. So I use that, And this is a more traditional screen printing squeegee, but this was made by my brother-in-law in Ottawa, who's an industrial designer. So he cast and poured this very, very soft durometer blade for me, and that works in a very painterly way, not like a screen printing blade, which is about putting the minimum of oil through a screen. This is much more painterly. So using a traditional screen print and varying the pressure allows for those kind of marks and that kind of layering of color.
And would you have done the layering with the sealant on that one as well, like you were saying, so that you can do layers of dry and wet?
No, because this is already on a sealed card. This is possibly the back of a sketchbook, or it may be a bit of a acid-free card. I can't remember now. But because that's a hard surface, there's no give in it. Then when you draw something over it like this, when you're working on the canvas is springy, and so it takes the color in a very fractured and fugitive way, unless you make it very thick and creamy, and then it will make a very strong gesture. But when you're on a board and things like that, everything you do changes. Everything you do is caught. So what I tend to do with these kind of paintings is use a lot of water. So I use the water to lift out some areas, and I'm very consciously using transparent color and opaque color. So an opaque teal and a transparent magenta. And then I'm washing out some of the magenta when that's half dry. So it's that thing of building up layers, scratching back through or washing them out, and everything in between, really.
You have a very distinct color palette, don't you? The colors are really important to you.
Yeah, I think I try and I'm sort of committed to color, leading with color painting, and seeing how colors respond in different sort of conversations, different collections. And I'm quite fascinated in sort of, the color dynamics or color theory that I was taught at college. There are certain things that you get this very, blue is periphrastic color, so blue recedes, and yellow is more of a streaming, weaker color, and red likes to take the middle space. So there's sort of very basic color dynamics. But when I'm painting, I'm quite fascinated to see you can make a violet behave like a blue, and you can turn the color perspective around, so a blue becomes a lustrous and projecting color. So I'm constantly having that conversation with the color chosen for the painting, and one color will behave one way in one painting and quite differently in another. So that's I never tire of that. I'm always looking at, trying to focus on color perspective and create that sort of the depth of the painting, but also to have the color projecting into space, so presencing where the color becomes you engage with it in front of the canvas. That fascinates me.
Yeah, when you look at your work, and it has got this ethereal nature to it. It takes you in. It's abstract, but it takes you in, draws you in, and you can see how you're using those colors to guide the eye and take people on that journey, which is absolutely, such a talent to have that ability to do that. Going back to talking about surfaces, I love that. So it could be the back of an old sketchbook. Just goes to show people reuse, and repurpose. How do you...
I think it's fun. You can get a piece of beautiful Italian linen and you can make a painting from that. Or you can get a bit of alu dye bond, which is just an industrial surface, and make a beautiful painting on that. Or, you can, when you're painting, you're taking just natural things, whether it's pigments and substances, and you're there's an alchemy to changing them into something, like a window into someone's sort of soul life. And I think that's just magical.
It is.
I get very giddy about that whole thing.
No, we've talked a lot about the magic in these last 15 days or so, about the magic that happens, and not to be over contrived, and to create moments, create an atmosphere where you're testing and playing, because that's where the magic happens. Yeah. And the surface and the paint all provide an opportunity for that magic if you allow it to happen.
I don't have, well, what can I say? Don't offend anybody, but this thing of having a strong idea and then realizing the idea. I'm not really interested in realizing ideas. I'm interested in that process of the revelation that a painting can be. I think it was Per Kirkby who said, we work standing amongst ruins. So it's like the painting has gone through so many different stages, and maybe some of those stages were very beautiful, but the painting wasn't harmonious, it wasn't quite right. So then there's that process of destroying, and every time you destroy something or cover something or whatever, that it just gets more, more depth or a richer quality or whatever. But often it doesn't work, and you put things away for a year, and then you get them out again, and suddenly you know what to do. So not everything just is a straight line from beginning to end, and that I also find that fascinating as well.
Yeah, me too. And there is no right or wrong way. I think that's a very clear message. There's no. Can you turn up Richard's volume a little bit, please? I don't know whether I can. Richard, can you turn up your volume a little bit? I can do that. Yeah, that's a little bit more on my end, but
let me just come up to the.
Richard is quite softly spoken, so.
Now then, I have to put my glasses on. Bear with me.
You sound quite.
F3 is. Okay, how's that?
Oh, is that better, Louisa? That does sound louder. So.
That's I can do that again if that's an issue.
Yeah, let us know, Louisa, if that's better. It's better now. Perfect. We've lost Richard though. He's gone.
But I just thought whilst I did that, I went to get another painting. This is a painting I made on Scottish linen, and Scottish linen, it's such a beautiful. It has such a beautiful sort of surface, and the way that captures the colour is very different to any other surface, and it has this beautiful kind of zesty, springy quality, lively, levity kind of quality that I found very exciting. So I love that changing surfaces. It's like another surprise. Look what's happening there. I get bored very easily. I really do.
Probably quite.
This is the 15th painting I've made on this paper, and it's like, the same thing's happening. I like to sort of mix it up. Yeah.
So when you're going to select a surface, is it quite a random act? Do you? Because I know when you first started exhibiting with Pure many years ago, you were doing quite a lot on diamond at that point.
Yeah.
Then you've transitioned to a lot more on board and canvas in recent years. So how do you go about making that decision?
Well, I think one thing leads to another. There's always in the back of my mind that to sort of be to be successful as a painter, you need to be able to create large pieces that are successful. So I think canvas is the best way to do that, because yes, you have a wooden frame, but then the bulk of that object is just cloth. So you're able to work in very large scale and keep the weight of things to a minimum. Working on aluminium sheets is very, very heavy. So there's a sort of scale. Once you get to a meter square, that would be a really heavy thing to hang on the wall. And I think you have to consider those things. But also, I think I don't know that it's so easy to sell pieces on alu dye bond. I think there's something about them. They seem quite hard. So I was sort of pushing into that more a sort of very contemporary feel, taking an industrial surface and working with it in a very painterly way. But I just got to a point where I was ready for something a bit more soft. And I came across, I had a friend who opened a paper distribution sort of business here, and he was keen to get me to try out some of his papers. And he gave me some Hannah Müller paper. There was one that was a 600 gram paper and a 425 gram paper and a 300 gram paper. And I think the 600 was called Leonardo. And it was, when I started to work on it, it just had a very particular decal. So it wasn't pocked. It sort of had longer, a little bit like onion skin might be. So you have longer sort of spear-shaped decals in the paper. And I absolutely loved that paper. And I'm still using it from time to time. Yeah, so I get hold of things that excite me, that I like. And then I explored 2 or 3 other different weights of Hahnemuhle paper. And I started playing with those. And then I got excited by a particular batch of acid-free card that I'd got from Lion Picture Framers. And it had a very lovely surface that was a little flock. So almost like the head of a cauliflower, you'd have all these different sort of slightly raised areas. And that took color because you're using squeegees and you know, these perspex sheets. The way that color moves over surfaces reads the surface. So the surface gives you a certain quality in the color, in the layering of color. And I became quite obsessed by that, or fascinated by that. Yeah, does that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a process, isn't it? It's all nothing within art is a, you know, linear. There's no right or wrong. It's all just how you explore it as your individual practice.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, and I love that alignment that you had there with the contemporary industrial surface. Very sculptural, really. When we were showing those pieces, they were almost veering on towards sculpture, as you said, and you have that sculptural piece in front of you. Is another aspect of your practice, and it'd be really interesting for you to talk through that sculpture aspect of your practice as well.
Well, I was working in London for Images Colour Library as a picture researcher, and I thought, you know, I thought I was going to be an artist. What am I doing here in London doing this? And I came down to, someone told me about Emerson College in Sussex being a wonderful place to just reconnect with one's creativity. So I came down, I took a day off work, and I got down on the train, and I thought, this is a place, this is a good place to come. And I did a first year, a foundation year, and then I joined the sculpture training there. And the sculpture training at Emerson was principally clay work. Well, I mean, we did lots of things, but a lot of the process was taking clay through a series of metamorphoses. So we worked with sort of plant phenomenology, we observed nature and trees, and then we would find an imaginative response to the oak tree or the ash tree or whatever it might be. And what I discovered in that process was how sculpture, actually, what a surprise, but sculpture in the round. It's interesting that we're doing, you know, pure 360, because the way that I work with sculpture is to be seen from 360 degrees. You know, so there might be one side of the sculpture which is closed. You know, it's that, yes, there's something relating above, there's something sort of coming into the body of the clay, and then this surface is catching light and casting shadow. Another great surprise about sculpture, it catches light and casts shadows. Who knew?
Who knew?
You come around here and there's something even more closed. You know, you can sort of see a movement. There's a convex surface, there's light and there's shadow. Come around again, a very strong curve. And then you come into this sort of inner space starts to open up.
Yeah, it's so much more intimate on one side of it, isn't it?
Yeah. So that was a maquette for a sort of square, you know, a large piece in stone to stand in a large space. But I just love that, you know, the fact that it's actually almost like a hand. So you could see it as a sort of abstracted hand if you wanted, but it doesn't have to be seen like that. There's something between, you know, these surfaces.
For me, it's got a resonance with the Barbara Hepworth sculptures and the mother and child kind of discussion.
Yeah.
But then that's what we do, isn't it? We bring our own story to every piece of art, which is why it's so fascinating to hear what the artist intended when they were thinking about it, and then the stories, as you know, that we bring from our own perspective to that piece. We overlay it with our own narrative, don't we?
Absolutely. And I think that's the wonderful thing about art, is that it provokes a response. You know, good art will provoke a deep response. I'll just show you this other little piece here, Lesley. I won't say much about it, but I'll pop it up here and just center it a little bit. So this is, in a sense, more upright piece.
Such an amazing movement in that piece. And that's clay.
That is terracotta clay.
Terracotta clay. Yeah, the incredible movement I can see in there. It's almost got wings.
Well, I was working with a group of eurythmists. Had a job just teaching them, or just sort of, yeah, we had about an hour and a half a week, and I'd go and we'd do a painting, or we'd do some pastel work, or we'd do some clay work. And I worked with them as they were working, and this sort of dancing form arose. So I always think of these lovely eurythmists that I worked with for a little while, all on a dancing training. Yeah. So it has just a quality like that.
It does have
quality
a quality of a ballerina. So did you take any of these pieces further and make them make them into public installations?
No. Well, yes, I did. I got a commission from Barrett Holmes, and I made a large green oak sculpture, which is standing in the new central development in Woking, and that was it when it was just in place. So that's 3 5.5 meter high oak butts that I worked with chainsaws and direct carving. So I kind of created an inner space through carving, and open space above through sort of chisel work, and the surfaces, the outer and inner surfaces, with chainsaws. That was a really fantastic project, which I finished in 2012.
And how did you get that commission?
I got that commission through the wonderful Anne Bamford, who was then a professor at the engine room, which was connected to Chelsea College of Art. And the engine room was a sort of a place that people like Barrett's or Barclays Bank or whatever, they'd approach the engine room and ask, so, we have a commission here. Are there any artists that you would recommend for this particular commission? And then you, as the artists, Anne recommended me and maybe a couple of other people. So we presented our ideas, and I was chosen. And then I made 12 different ideas. Gosh, can I show you that? And they shortlisted them to 3. So those are some of my ideas up here. And we worked with students in Woking. We worked with 150 school children and college students, gathered their ideas, and then I worked, sort of facilitated really those processes, and then developed their ideas into these maquettes. So like
a real community kind of project.
Yeah, it really was. It was a fabulous thing, and everyone who's involved with it from beginning to end, it was a very positive thing. Yeah, and I'd hope that would lead on to other things, but yeah, then I just started painting, and then the painting sort of took over a little bit. Yeah, and I was still engaged with teaching clay work to teachers or people on the teacher training in London, and a few other pieces I made myself. But I became fascinated because of that experience I had at the Gerhard Richter retrospective in London. I became fascinated with colour and working with Squeegees to create this sort of colour presence.
And that became the main part of your practice from then on.
Yeah, the sculpture kind of fell away, but yeah, it's still there. I still want to do something with it. Yeah, but it'll come back, I'm sure.
It'll come back when the time is right for it to come back, won't it? Did you kind of have a yearning for it during lockdown?
Well, no, because these ideas, I kind of remade myself when the first lockdown came, because we didn't know what would happen, And I'd been in the studio up at Emerson. I've got a studio just up the hill, and I'd been working in there for over a year. But when COVID started, I basically started everything afresh, and I overworked most of the things that I'd been working on for that previous year. And I was on a mission to paint. I painted on everything, and when I ran out of paintings, I looked at the canvases that against the wall I thought were finished. I reworked them as well, and I was working on paper and card, and I ordered another batch of canvases and stretchers. So I mean, I have a series of 100 paintings. The one beside me here is number 100. I'll just show you that.
I was going to say, if you turn
So that is, it's a bit too much. That's there. So that's the 100th painting in the series.
It's this one at the top.
Yeah, this one up here. So it's working with. Yeah, maybe I can talk about that. The process of that painting.
That'd be cool.
So after the sort of forest-like painting with this very open sort of spilling of light, I thought I'd work more in the sense of creating a surface. So I used a very, very viscous yellow, which was left to dry, so it was almost dried out, and working that on the fresh, unprimed canvas. The canvas then starts to take the color from the large squeegee. Little dots of color start to build, and the more you take the squeegee across the surface, these little areas of color get larger and larger and larger. Some of them are like a baked bean, some of them are like a pinhead, and some of them even larger. And then I started to cover that with I covered it with zinc white and magenta and light red and cobalt blue, and all the time I'm adding layers of color and then scraping back. So as you scrape back, you reveal the first dots of yellow that you put on the painting, on the surface. And I really liked what happened, because there was this sort of natural, almost diagonals appeared. So although they weren't actually consciously made, there was this way where you could step back through the painting. And also there was this very beautiful deep magenta sort of threshold in the center of the painting, which arose. And once it arose, I just kind of kept it there. I didn't make it consciously. I was just working with lots of layers and then removing. So creating, destroying, creating, destroying. But knowing that the light would remain, because that very, very viscous yellow is the first thing that I put on. And I knew that wouldn't set for a long time.
And then have you sealed it? So is that now sealed? Is it finished?
I think it is. I haven't varnished it, but I put a sealer on it just to give it a sort of. Some parts were very shiny and some parts are very matte, so I just wanted to level it out a little bit. And I think that's it. It's survived for about 2 months now. I haven't changed it.
It has got a quality of historical paintings about it. Definitely, you can see the influences coming through from all the painters that you're saying. Gerhard Richter was a massive influence on you, and you can see that in this painting.
Yeah, I think it was just interesting, isn't it? The 100th painting in a series. Gosh, that's a year.
Yeah.
That's the first time I had such a concentrated sort of really kind of concentrated, pressurized time to paint.
And when you're thinking about the influences in your life on your painting, and as I say, you mentioned Gerhard Richter. Who else is it? Do you think that you reference in your mind when you're exploring?
Well, I think very many painters really, but I'm quite fascinated by the individuality of painters. I'm fascinated by Alexei Yavlensky and Yavlensky's. If you look at his life and his working practice, I think it's just an absolutely staggering achievement what he did in the end of his life, when he was crippled with arthritis and could barely move his hands. He made some of the most sublime paintings of the 20th century, and they were from the Russian icon tradition. So then when you look at, say, Rothko's work, and he was also schooled in from that tradition, where you're working with, the artist is working with a surface, but they're working with this, as the icon tradition was, frontality. So where color can project into the space before the canvas. So the opposite of the Renaissance perspective, which is to create a window so that you go back through the surface of the canvas into the wall. And I think that the Russian folk soul, there's such a profound spirituality there, that spirituality has come into sort of European painting in a way. Like, certainly for me. And another massive influence is Ian Mckeever. Ian Mckeever's paintings. You might not see the influence straight away, but I think it was 2007. There was the Ron Kittai retrospective at the time. At the Royal Academy, sorry. And I went on a Tuesday morning, a rainy Tuesday morning, to the RA to see the Kittai retrospective. I thought that would be brilliant. I walked through the front doors of the RA, you go upstairs, you go in, and I completely forgot the first sort of 4 areas of the room were a Kittai retrospective. And at the end was this abstract painting. And the abstract painting came off the wall when I walked through the front door. It came off the wall to greet me. And I've never had that experience with a painting, that a painting would actually project towards me. It's like I went nose to nose with this painting. How has he done this? What's going on with this painting? How is this even possible? And then years later, I'm sort of, I'm still trying to work with presence and bring presence through painting in a very different way to Mckeever. But he's a profound influence. I've read his sort of essays on painting.
Definitely.
So, sorry, Lesley.
You can see that influence in this final piece for sure.
Yeah, it's a journey. I think that I'm just, I live with questions and I carry questions. And I think if we go to exhibitions and we look at things and we only have answers, we're doing a great disservice to the artists. We should really look with questions, a questioning heart and a questioning mind. How has this been achieved, and where is this coming from, and what are the influences here? And to have that more contemplative approach. It might not be so fashionable, I don't know, but for me it's a sort of I want to be captivated. I want to be transported by paintings.
It's a curiosity, isn't it? It's having that natural curiosity of life, and then seeing where that takes you as you explore the conversations that come up every time you're exposed to something else, a new way of seeing, a new way of making art. And that's why I'm loving doing these interviews, because every day you see a new methodology, a new way that artists approach their practice, and how they come out with the outcomes that they do at that particular moment in time.
Yeah, I think that's something that's wonderful. For me, it's been a fascinating year. And I put this painting. This was the painting I made, number 7 in this series. Is that showing, Lesley? Yeah.
So this is number 7.
This is number 7.
This is quite early on.
Yeah. So in the first weeks, I would have started this. And you can see the hands are yellow, and you can see the violet. There's a liquid magenta that's run through that. The ground was a pale violet, which you can sort of see just shining through here and there. But there's something happens between this first area of blue and the yellow, the way that the yellow breaks, and then the yellow above, and the way that the blue becomes sort of a barrier to entering the painting. So the cobalt blue is working not in not as depth, but actually as a sort of barrier. And there's magenta and bronzy yellows and the earthy reds up there. I don't know if you can see those.
Yeah,
The lights. Yeah, you can see them.
yeah.
And then framed with
angle.
the zinc white and dark blue, creates this. Well, you're sort of going in, but you can't go in. So there's a sort of, it's almost like a space that's like this.
It's almost volcanic.
Yeah, something kind of like lava, jumping up lava-ish.
Yeah.
Jumping up.
It is almost volcanic. And isn't that fascinating? Because that picture, and this is almost the yellow at the bottom here is, I want to say heavenly. It's giving me that feeling, that heavenly effect that you've created there. That's almost like something that's there, but you can't quite access it. And this is very much what I am familiar with in your work and why I love it so much. Whereas when you turn round to the final piece that you've done, you can see the journey that you've been on during this, painting these 100 paintings, because it's quieter. It's quieter, and the textural detail that you're saying you want to comes out. And as I say, it's got something it's got such a historic quality in the final 100. And that you can see where you've been on that journey. And isn't that an amazing gift that you've had, that opportunity?
Yeah, I think so. I was watching Grayson's Art Club, and he just does all these wonderful things that are said. And he said, artists love restrictions. And I thought, well, yeah, that restriction has been such a gift for me. Sort of pinching myself in a way.
Yes, it's a once in a lifetime that you're given the opportunity to just dwell within your practice and follow that curiosity and stay in flow. You've been able to stay in flow, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely.
For a distinct period of time, without the interruptions, the normal interruptions of commerciality and selling and getting it out to a gallery and all of those things.
Yeah.
What is your plan with these 100 pieces of work? What do you plan to do?
Well, they are. I'm working with Richard Field in Mayfield at Melford Gallery, and he's wanting to have some wonderful kind of musical happenings, and to be sort of immersed in some of these paintings. So that's an ongoing thing when the galleries are able to reopen.
That's exciting, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. And he has some wonderful pianists and cellists and just lovely things happening there. So I'm delighted that my work can be seen and experienced with music and dance and movement. That's very, really nice. And I've got my Clifton Fine Art in Bristol. They're keen to have some of the work as well. So I have to put it out there. I made a couple of little books, sort of trying to show the whole process. But it's not easy just to right. I'm going to have a show now. So if anyone's out there's interested, I've got lots of paintings.
100 paintings. Richard's got 100 paintings, and this is just like an amazing opportunity to show a body of work. I mean, what a legacy, a body of work that's been created during this period of time that really shows you on your journey of curiosity to find with those historical and really important influences that you've just described, and where that's taken you. So if anyone's out there looking, it's got a really big gallery. Hauser and Worth, are you listening? I think Richard could need a space that's very industrial to take your work.
Yeah, my wife's just popped in and passed me the book. So I've just self-published a little book, which is Stolen Time, Art During Lockdown, the small paintings. So that details all the small 11 centimeter square paintings I've made. And that's available on Blurb, on my bookshop in Blurb.
Where can people buy that? So is that on your website?
It is. No, not yet. It only arrived last week, and I've tried to put the link in, but I need some technical assistance for that. But it is available if you go into Blurb and look for Richard Hayes. There are a few books there, and this is there.
And I'm sure people could DM you on Instagram, couldn't they?
They could, yeah.
They could. And how much are you charging for the books?
I think it's about £26, I think. Depends on the exchange rate, I suppose, but something like that. Yeah.
It's Blurb, a US site. I don't know it, but
they're printing. I think they're printing Belgium, so they've got
so
a European. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're interested in a book, then do DM Richard on Instagram. And if anyone who's watching this live streaming onto Facebook and to YouTube has got any questions, please do put them in the question area and comments area and like and share, etc. Because Sophie will be over there bringing those across. And it's interesting because Bev said, where in the world does your artwork go? I mean, it must go far and wide.
Well,
your collector base.
Yes. Last year started really well. I sold a piece to a collector in New York, and then I sold another piece to someone in Switzerland. And I thought, gosh, yes, I'm sending work to, it's such a wonderful thing. But the woman who, when my painting arrived in Switzerland, she phoned me up instantly, and she was from Leeds, so she had this Yorkshire, quite a broad Yorkshire accent. So I had this lovely conversation with her. She's now living in Switzerland and just loved the painting when it arrived. She loved it so much she had to phone me. So I was kind of delighted that my work was moving like that. So I've sold a lot of pieces through the Artist Support Pledge last year. I think I sold about 31 paintings, and some went to Australia and some went to America, quite a few around Britain, and some went to Brussels, and I sent one to Germany. Gosh. So, I think that these sort of platforms we have, social media platforms, were invaluable to our survival last year, over the last 12 months.
Yeah. I think embracing digital and not seeing it as your enemy, but seeing it as your friend is, and as a tool. It is a tool, and you have to manage it, don't you?
You do, and you've got to be careful that it doesn't sort of take up too much of your sort of time and energy. I think that's something you can become very, very caught up in it. But I'm also very aware that it gives you an impression of a painting, but it doesn't give you the reality of the painting. And I think that's also very important to remember, that the digital world, we have like an image, but when you see the real painting, you will have a much deeper experience. As
the lady from Leeds.
Yes. Yeah. But there is a photographer in Forest Row, Simon Skinner. He's sadly shut up shop because of COVID and everything now. But he took in my paintings to photograph, and he couldn't capture the right sort of magentas in the painting, and he got the Nikon technicians to come down and check it all out. And after a whole evening trying to sort of get these photos, they admitted that they couldn't actually they couldn't actually photograph the shift from red to magenta. They couldn't capture it. So I think that's a wonderful thing to bring up, because of magenta is quite a fascinating thing anyway, because we can't actually perceive magenta. We actually have a hole in our color perception, and our minds kind of create our experience of magenta anyway. But the fact that they couldn't photograph this, they actually admitted we can't do this, I thought was wonderful for the reality of painting. Do you know what I mean?
It gives you hope, doesn't it? It gives you hope. I think it's great, and digital world is great, and it's a tool that artists can use, but there will be nothing like experiencing, as you said, that painting coming off the wall at you. And for me, it's the smell as well, the smell of the paint. I love that, when you walk into the gallery and you can smell, especially with the oils, obviously, the paint, and it's so real. It's so real. And so, I think it's keeping it real and making sure that we use each one of these aspects to their full benefit for the artists and everyone involved within the art world. And yeah, hopefully it's been liberating and it's broken down some barriers a little bit. But we mustn't ever think we can't, you know, artists need galleries, artists need exhibition opportunities. They'll still need all of those things. And won't it be amazing when we can do that? You know, galleries are open now, which, you know, people, if you can, go to galleries. I've booked my ticket to go to the Hockney exhibition at the RA, and I've also booked my ticket for the summer exhibition, which no one's even submitted to yet. I don't think. I'm just ahead. I'm like, I've got my tickets. I know I'm going to be going to them.
You're ahead of the game, Lesley.
I am. I just, you know, I've been deprived of real physical artwork, and all our artwork's been locked in galleries, and we haven't been able to get at it. So yeah, it is a balance. But a couple of other questions for you here. Another one from Bev saying, do you work quickly and loosely or quite deliberately?
Oh, well,
big question.
Again, it depends on how the painting is going, you know. Sometimes I can work very quickly. So there's the little painting I made. This is about number 22 in the series, and you can sort of see. I'll come round.
Come round.
You have a.
And is that on paper, Richard?
That's on acid-free card. So you can see there's a sort of a grey, a dark cobalty grey blue there, with a creamy white over it, and then there is a very pale phthalo green gesture. So this gesture, this movement that goes up and back and up, and that phthalo green was a viscous phthalo green mixed with a fluid Indian yellow, so that phthalo green would become a rich green and mix as I move them two together. So that was a painting that I made in 2 stages. So the ground was made, and then this phthalo green gesture was overlaid once the ground was set. So probably wasn't 100% dry, but it was more or less set. And that was a kind of a wonderful thing to make a painting with, which the whole of the painting can be united by a single gesture. And I brought that along because that was early on. And this is number 98 in the series. So you can see there that there is a grey and violet and cad yellow and Hansa yellow ground. And then there's a quinacridone violet drawn over that and moved in a way in 2 gestures, this way and this way. So there was something from the beginning of the series, the beginning of this sort of size work, and the last one in the series. And there's something coming together there, uniting, which I thought was interesting. So a complex ground, and then a gesture of opaque, transparent color drawn over a complex ground. So I can see myself in that, you know, that approach.
It's a methodology. How much do you sell those for, the small ones?
These are £100 with £10 postage and packing. So
and have you put those on the artist support pledge, or have you?
Yes, yeah, I've sold half a dozen or 7 or so, but these 2 happen really quickly. Just to quickly get back to that, and this is a little piece which can you see that? Is it reflecting a lot?
No, you can see it.
Yeah, so that is a piece. I've had that kicking about in a box for about 2 years, and I've gone back to it, and I've gone back to it, and gone back to it. But the thing that I did over the last, say, 5 or 6 months is I added these orange, light yellow, light red and orange shapes. And then I added the cobalt blue down here. And then I added a transparent magenta over the cobalt blue. But that has been such a nightmare to make that painting. But I'm finally so happy with it. It's in a frame. So I can't do anything more with that. That's finished. But so some things happen, some things come along really quickly, and some things just, you know, they just don't find resolution. So you can have an approach that, right, I'm going to do this ground and I'm going to make this shape over the top, and just forget it. You know, it doesn't work. So there's that thing that Sean Scully said about painting. You know, he says wonderful things about abstraction, but he said that you know, you can have a really successful painting, but if you try and copy it and reproduce it, it's not going to work, because there's no formula for successful painting. And I think that's really important to remember, that then you're not tempted to copy something. You know, you can, yes, I copy or I rework a certain color combination, or I know the viscous color will work this way with liquid color on top of it, but I'm not trying to reproduce a successful painting. I think that's a trap. It's like you're going to fall into being a hack if you pursue that.
I was just about to say,
yeah,
that is
yeah.
the pursuit of average.
Yeah.
If you try and you go, oh, I know how that works, and I'm going to do that, and I'm just going to replicate it over and over again because I know that was successful. That's just in the pursuit of average. And you're not in the pursuit of average. As a fine art painter, you're in the pursuit, as you said early on in this conversation, of magic, of the unexpected, of the exciting.
Yes.
And why would you want to pursue average? And sometimes it won't work. And that's just what you have to accept, is sometimes it won't work. And as you just said there, but if you leave it to one side for a year or 2 years and come back to it and reapproach it, there you are. Yeah. You can, you know, with fresh eyes and new experience, and you've explored that curiosity and you've carried on down that journey, and you've grown as an artist, suddenly you come back at it and there it is, and the resolution presents itself. So yeah, that's the sign of a true artist, in my opinion.
Bonfires are quite good as well.
Please don't do that, Richard. Please don't do that.
I had a good little bonfire last week, and that was such a yes. I don't have to worry about those paintings anymore. They just let them go. You know?
that would be quite cathartic, actually.
Absolutely, yes.
Letting go. Fran says, where is the Scottish, you said about the pit painting on Scottish linen. Where did you get the Scottish linen from?
Oh, no idea off the top of my head, Fran. I'll have a look, and I'll if you just send me your email. I've got your email, haven't I?
Yeah, you've got Fran White's email, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'll send you something through.
Yeah.
It could have been Russell and Chappell. It could have been Lyon. It could have been Jackson's. I'll check.
Yeah. Bev says, have your color combinations been inspired by something you've seen, or are you led by what is happening in your paintings as you're working on them?
Yeah, I think it's very much like it's working with the colors as they arise, and we're working with that instinct. That needs a violet, but at the same time, one thing I did when the Stolen Time series was well underway, I started to I printed out some little thumbnails, and I was wanting to look consciously what colors I was avoiding, and one of the colors was a pale green, and one was pink. So then I tried consciously to work towards a green, a successful green, and a successful pink painting. So I didn't want to. I wanted to sort of honor all color. You know, I mean, that's an impossibility, but I didn't want to just work with blues. You know, I don't know why. I just felt it was. I wanted to open it up somehow and try and embrace the things I was avoiding. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's like looking at what we're meant to learn, isn't it? Standing back and thinking, why am I avoiding that? What is it I need to learn from if I embrace that? Resistance, because you get resistance, and resistance is exciting because it's an opportunity to think, why am I resisting this? I love that notion. Vincent is saying acrylic is a quick dry medium, unlike oil paint. Do you use or add mix to the paint when using your squeegees to maintain an even flow?
Yes, and do different things. This is an oil here, so I do squeegee work with oils as well. But there are there's all sorts of clever things you can do with acrylic paints. But Golden, a really wonderful American company, and they make a series of paints. So I use Golden open colors, and they remain changeable for hours and hours, and you can reactivate them the next day. If you add fresh color on top of layers that you think are dry, they can lift out completely. So there are lots of clever things are out there. Golden have a retarder, and Liquitex have a flow aid, and it's interesting to play with those. One thing that's really necessary sometimes is to keep a ground open. So for this painting, this was basically a big pink W, like a Cassiopeia W, in a blue ground, and I used a lot of retarder in that so it would keep its tack for as long as possible. And I didn't want it to go off.
Of that, can't you? You can see.
Yeah, you can see the pink as it appears here and here.
Yeah.
So it almost creates the bough of the tree, that sort of foresty feeling.
Yeah. Richard, that's been absolutely fascinating, and I hope that everybody's got a much clearer insight enough to that they need to understand your work, but not too much so they can go and start replicating what you do. I'm sure
they can try. I'm sure that would be fascinating. That would be lovely to have that kind of conversation with someone.
Wouldn't it be amazing?
Yeah.
That'd be amazing. And I know we've got a lot of abstract painters watching, and I think you're an inspiration. You really are. When you were talking about your inspirations and the people who have kind of provide the mentorship, even in the fact that they're not alive, but you've seen their work, I think you do that as well for a lot of people, and it's really powerful to hear you talk about your process and your work. So thank you so much for being so generous in sharing that, and I can't wait to see a big amount of your work exhibited in one place, and we'll be really looking for somewhere to do that. I think we need to take that on as a mission. And find somewhere where we can show at least a good quantity of that work in one go, because to immerse yourself into it will be incredible.
Oh, thank you, Lesley. That's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I'm always thinking of all of you guys wherever I go, and always thinking about how to resolve these conundrums that you present me with. So, but if you want to buy any of Richard's work, as he said, he's on the artist support pledge, and the small ones are £100. The medium size ones are what price point?
Oh gosh, you've got me there. I'm not sure. I'm not sure off the top of my head, because I've got my formula for the size of all the canvases, and these are all different sizes. So
you're going to have to come up with prices.
I am going to have to come up with prices, but I hadn't thought of that for tonight. Otherwise,
don't you worry. You don't need to. But if anyone has got particularly taken with any of the pieces that you've seen this evening, then do just direct message Richard on Instagram, and he'll get back to you. That's the best way. Or go onto his website, as we've shown you, and you can contact him directly. I know there was a little chat in the sidebar about UV glass and the glass that doesn't reflect. And yes, that's a really good solution to stop reflections. Sometimes, though, it can create a flatness. So sometimes artists decide not to use that glass for their own particular art practice. It is very good for works on paper because it stops them fading. So, yeah. But talk to Bev. Bev's the expert on framing and glass. Go to Bev and talk to Bev about framing and glass. That's definitely her field of expertise. But yeah, artists pick a resolution that works with their art practice. So
and with their pocket. I have to say, if I have to frame 40 small paintings with UV glass or museum quality glass, we're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds, which I haven't got. So yeah, that's a.
Hopefully, we can get you to a position where you have. Wouldn't that be nice?
Saying all the right things, Lesley. Yes.
We need to get Richard to a place where he can frame it all with museum glass, and that is, if everyone is interested in buying Richard's work, then I as I say, I've seen your journey. It's been amazing, and to see where you've come from, and your 100th painting to me is just. Yeah, it's just stunning. So I'm sure there's many more years of painting, and I'm really intrigued to see where the sculpture goes as well.
Okay, I better start something.
You better start to, well, you've on your website now, and you've been intriguing me with this conversation of sculpture. So I need to start seeing some sculpture as well.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Richard.
Thank you, Leslie.
Absolutely brilliant. And thank you for being so
And thank you
generous.
for watching. Yeah, thank you for watching, everybody.
Yeah, I think that everyone's loved it. And thank you, everyone who's been watching on live stream and on YouTube. As you know, all of these broadcasts are available to watch on the Pure website on the Art360 watch page. They're all on the live YouTube Pure Live channel. They're on Facebook as well. Facebook is quite tricky. Sometimes it doesn't show you where they are. So you're better off going onto the website. Over the weekend, we've got an amazing film showing tomorrow night, Saturday, premiering at 6 o'clock. That's been made by Caitlin Locke, who does a lot of photography for us. And that's a Fran White's art practice. I think you would be fascinated to watch that, Richard, actually, because Fran is very much in the same realm as you in abstraction and in colour and the way she approaches her work. And then on Sunday, we will be premiering the interview I did with Will Devlin, which is looking at purpose and his perspective as a chef with purpose and how that relates to artwork. Because obviously we show a lot of artwork in Will's restaurant, and he's been a massive supporter of the artists, and he provides an opportunity to showcase the work. So yeah, those two are releasing over the weekend. And then on Monday, I will be interviewing Jonathan Haitley. So sculptor again and sculpture. So everyone who's a Pure member will receive an email tomorrow with all the links in, and everyone who's subscribed here will obviously get their reminders as well. So yeah, we look forward to seeing everyone again on Monday, but do tune in to the YouTube channel and the website over the weekend to see those premieres, because as I say, Fran's film it's only 8 minutes long, but it is absolutely brilliant. So well done, Caitlin. Well done, Fran. It's an excellent film. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
We're all going to go off and have a nice gin and tonic now. And we'll be back here same time on Monday. Thank you so much. And, we'll catch up in the normal course of events anyway. Take care, everyone. Have a lovely weekend. Yeah, take care. Bye.